I got out of a relationship 2 days ago. And that was like my second try at that relationship. Yeah.
So you're the perfect person to ask, what's the hardest part? What's so hard you had to get out?
Oh, man. After the chemicals, like the love chemicals that were there, wore down when we were interacting with each other, we ended up just being different in so many ways that we weren't anticipating, and our ability to communicate well died. So it ended up turning into something that was extremely toxic, perhaps the most toxic. Well, I mean, it like rivals like the most toxic relationship I'd been in prior to that, and I don't know. I honestly don't have many great things to say about it. I'm glad it's over. It was strange because this is one of my fighting partners. So we had nonverbal communication from like January of 2018, like over a year ago.
What do you mean you had non-verbal communications?
We didn't really talk. We just we would train martial arts together.
Oh, okay.
So we would be paired.
Partners.
Yeah. So we would always like fight each other with knives and sticks in Filipino martial arts, but we wouldn't talk about things. And then I was in another relationship then. And after that relationship ended around last September, one day, we were always the nerds that would like stay after training to train more. And so after that, one day it was just us, and I got hungry and I was like, I want to go get Thai food. And we ended up having a lot in common through our conversations. And I was going through a very sad period, and he was one of the only people that still was happy existing around me when I was sad. And that made me kind of like fall in love with him. And I really enjoyed being able to have such great conversations with him and communicate about lots of different emotions and things without him taking it personally. And so he got out of a relationship that he was in around the same time, and we were able to communicate so well, and it was like one of the most beautiful, healthy things I'd ever been in. And then I don't know what happened. It died. It like all turned around, and then it became one of the most toxic things. Probably like 4 months in for me. I mean, it didn't, but I couldn't figure out how to work with him after that point, and I was like prioritizing that and trying things, and I felt like nothing was working. And it was just a strange, volatile thing. Like things that were my triggers that he said he would never do, like scream at me, were happening. And then I would react emotionally, and I couldn't handle being screamed at. And then I'd try to like fix myself while also changing things so that he wouldn't want to do that. And things just got more and more volatile, and it was awful. So very glad that that's been cut out.
Your question was, what's the hardest thing about being in a relationship?
Yeah, most difficult.
Communication.
What's the most difficult? Communication.
So what about you and your wife? What do you think makes your relationship successful, and how do you communicate?
You know, I've been with my wife now for almost close to 20 years. So maybe like,
that's amazing.
I don't know, like 18 maybe, something like that. So I think there's a couple of things that make it work. And I think there's basic compatibility. And I think you have to have basic compatibility. And I think what that means is that on some very fundamental level, things by your nature work. Because if fundamentally it doesn't work, oh my God, I think you're just going to run out of energy trying to make it work. And then once you run out of energy, it just all blows up big time. And so I think there's a basic compatibility, and I think it's probably very unique to the couple that, you know, different couples need different combinations of things to make them basically compatible. I think you need to have a basic worldview that's similar. Like, you know, I think for me, it's so important. I think one thing that works well for me and my wife, I think we both believe that I'm responsible for my stuff. What's happening in my life, it's really kind of like, on some very fundamental level, it's really kind of comes back to me in some way. And if you don't have that, mutually, that's difficult to kind of navigate. So there's that.
Will you please explain that again? I don't really understand.
So, there's people who believe that, like, I have this job, and it's a fucking, the reason why I have to have this job, okay, the reason why I have to have this job, because you want to make sure that that we have a nice car and we have a nice apartment to live in, and now I have to have this job, and I really don't want this job, but you kind of make me go and have this job. That's not right. That's not correct. You've basically kind of outsourced. I've attributed things to you that I can't, meaning you've made me go get a job. No, I've made me go get a job. Mm-hmm. I could have said, no, I cannot, whatever. I didn't realize that I basically have, I've not taken responsibility for the fact that, no, I went to get this job. I made at some point a decision to do something that I really don't want to do, or I can't, or maybe we need to find a different way, but it's still my responsibility. Mm-hmm. And I'm not doing you a service by doing something that then I'll end up resenting you. Or maybe then I'm going along with it for 2 weeks, and then I'm starting to become bitchy at you. But I maybe not even realize I've become bitchy at you because I feel like you make me do this job. But really, I need to realize that I'm basically refuse to take responsibility for what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. I've taken this job. So becoming aware, and it goes really deep. It goes really deep to where you have to get to a place where everything on some level is you're an actor in all of this. You're an important actor in all this. Of course, things happen, but you are the main actor in this, and you need to kind of. And if you don't believe that, then you basically become more and more powerless. Just like in this story, this made-up story here is, I basically lose power because now I think you made me do this job. You made me go get this job. And so therefore I have no power because it's you, and I cannot make you do you and I do me. I cannot force you to do things. You can only change you, and I can only change me. So that's a fundamental, it's like a fundamental belief system that if you have that, then and the other person has that, it's a big plus.
I love that.
So the foundation of both knowing that you are responsible for how you feel and your happiness, and that you guys are not responsible for each other's happiness. I shouldn't feel like I'm obligated to make sure that you're feeling a certain way. Like, you should be able to already do that on your own and act upon it, and then you guys can just do it together naturally. So just having that common ground of knowing, okay, I'm in charge.
Like Jocko Willink's extreme ownership.
Yeah, I don't know if it's I don't like extreme because that sounds like we're doing some crazy business.
I love it.
Yeah, but this is one part, and then the other part, I think one thing that's also important, especially if you've been together for a long time, you can't do everything together. Don't do everything together. Mm-hmm. You're gonna burn out. You have to maintain, and maybe that's even more a little bit of a responsibility for the women in a relationship, where maintain the things that you think are interested in, even if it's something that you can't do with your partner. Keep them going. This is really important because these build your own. You need to build your own thing, and because then when you come together, you're like, we can do stuff together now. Because if it's always together, it starts to go like, can you go do something else? So maintain your own thing and then come back together, So
I'm so excited to have the opportunity now to just do it by myself and build myself up more, because that was such a negative experience for me and such a drain on my resources, that I feel very grateful for the opportunity to be in a better headspace and building things without worrying about another person in my life that I felt needed my care.
I think that's also harder when you're younger to go into a relationship because you haven't quite figured certain things out. You're not as solid, and you're like, Like, you know, because I'm older, I kind of really know I'm interested in this, I'm not interested in that. I can't change that. It won't change. It doesn't matter who I'm with. And it's very clear in my head. But of course, when I was in 20, I didn't know this. I had a couple of things that I'm interested in, and I'm not sure I'm going to do this. And it was much more fluid, and so therefore you don't know, and so it's a little bit more difficult. And of course, you need to kind of figure this out over time. And after a while, you're like, yeah, I like this. I like guys who are like this. I don't like guys who are like that. You get clear on that level too, you know. Whereas it's like, yeah, it's going to work. You know, just, you know. And then, of course, I think you need to be, I'm not sure I'm 100% right about this, but I have a feeling that if sex is no good, don't continue. I think there has to be, it's just a natural compatibility there. And because it's hard enough to maintain a good sex life over 20 years, that takes work. So if it's not compatible at first, wow, you're on an uphill battle. It's going to be an uphill battle. So. So abandon ship if it doesn't.
I have done that previously based on the sex life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even though everything else seemed right, I just wanted there to be that connection too.
Yeah. It's such a powerful thing. And
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.